Hey, Mikey, it's Dan Raphael. I'm doing this for the Ring Magazine. How are you today?
Hey, Dan, doing good. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Mikey, you've had some time in your career where you had long layoffs. Obviously, the top rank situation, one of them, I think it was 2.5 years where you didn't fight. This is a situation where you're now going to be coming off a 20-month layoff, not for any lawsuits or any problems like that or serious injuries or anything like that. And I just wonder, you come off a really good win against Jesse Vargas in a highly entertaining fight with a good crowd. Pandemic happens, and lots of guys have come back since then. I just wonder if you could discuss if there is a frustration of having to now go another 20 months without a fight while you're still, seemingly at the top of your game.
Well, the pandemic definitely affected not just myself, but a lot of fighters. Were inactive during the whole pandemic and still are. It's frustrating that something that was completely out of anyone's control, really affected the whole world. And that's the main reason why I wasn't, getting back in the ring. But I'm happy that we're back. I'm happy to get back on Saturday night. And like I said, I'll show everybody that I'm still here, that I'm not gone, that I'm not done. There's still a lot more to accomplish.
Do you think that, and I can appreciate that you're happy to get back in the ring, number one, but we kind of all got teased with the prospect. I'm not even going to get into the Pacquiao thing because that was out of your control. We were teased with the prospect of a Regis Prograis fight, which I heard from lots of fans were excited about that possibility. I was excited about that possibility. And in the end, the result is you're fighting Martin, who may be a good fighter, but frankly, most people have never heard of him. So I wonder, what do you think that the reason is that fans would be, there may be fans of yours, but excited to see this matchup, a guy they may never have heard of, instead of a more well-known opponent to see, the best of Mikey Garcia?
Well, I was very excited to try to get the Regis Prograis fight also. That's the fight that we were pushing for several months. Unfortunately, the scheduling, the timing, and the budgets were not available to promote and put a fight of that kind together in the short amount of time that we had to promote this fight. So it just didn't make sense. It didn't happen. I mean, you can probably ask Eddie Hearn more about it, and he'll probably tell you more in detail. But that's really what it was. The scheduling didn't allow for the right amount of promotion, and again, the budget wasn't there. I also wanted the Regis Prograis fight more than any other fight. Unfortunately, just things in boxing happen. I mean, that's why a lot of fights don't get done. We get interested in a certain fight, with different names, but sometimes it's just the way boxing business goes. And we have to get back in the ring though. I got to get back. And Eddie mentioned a few names, and I gave the okay to all three names. And he proposed Sandor Martin, and we said sure, let's do it. I mean, at least it gets me back in the ring. And it's not, I don't think it's just a fight. It's a good fight. It's a good matchup. Gets me back in the ring against a good opponent that's hungry for a good win over me to launch his career even higher. And so I don't think it's just a fight. I mean, the people in boxing, the casual fans are just typical boxing analysts, don't really know much about him yet, but this is his big shot. This is his opportunity. I can't take him lightly.
I got you, Mikey. Thank you very much, and I wish you good luck on Saturday.
Thanks, Dan.
Let's go to Jake next.
Okay. Thanks, and I appreciate it. Mikey, welcome back to the ring. It's good to have you back. Kind of piggybacking on what Dan asked you. I know your expectation was to fight Regis Prograis this year. It seemed like you were ready to fight him without even coming off of a long layoff. Without looking past this weekend, would that be your expectation going into your next fight, or would you want to maybe pursue a title shot, whether at 140 or 147?
Well, the idea that I had spoken about with Eddie and my team was to get through this fight, get this done, and pursue a fight with Regis. That's the same idea that we've had, and we're still gonna look forward to pushing for that fight. However, if there is an opportunity to fight for a world title, then I'm definitely gonna take that opportunity. I'm definitely gonna jump on that. But the idea is to get back in conversations and talks with Team Prograis and secure that fight.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike. My other question was already asked, so good to see you again, and looking forward to your fight this weekend.
Thanks, Jake.
Yeah.
Let's go to Danny now. Thank you.
Hey, Mikey, how you doing? Danny from Seconds Out.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you? That's not my first question. This fight with Sandor Martin is made at 145. If the right opportunity presented itself back at 140, Josh Taylor, for example, huge fight, would you consider dropping back down? Are you able to drop back down?
Well, yeah, we think we can, fight at 140, campaign at 140 for the right fight, and obviously Josh Taylor is the right fight. He is the man at 140, so I feel I can definitely do that. That's probably the biggest and most interesting fight for me at 140. So I will definitely entertain that. This fight is at a scheduled 145 pounds. Originally, we thought maybe we could do 147 pounds against a fight contender at 147. But being that, like I said, for the short amount of time and we didn't really have a list of opponents available that could be ready in the short window to prepare for the fight. Sandor Martin had requested maybe a catch weight. He was asking for a lower fight, like a 142. We settled on 145, and that's why we're doing this fight at a contractor weight of 145.
And I also just wanted to get your take as a fan and a fellow competitor in the weight class of the fight between Sean Porter and Terence Crawford. And if you'd be interested in fighting the winner, of course.
Wow, I think that's a great matchup. I think Porter presents a lot of challenges that people are overlooking. His style of fighting will definitely give Crawford, a run for his money. I still feel that Crawford wins. I still feel that Crawford is a more sounded technical fighter who will win a decision. But Porter is no easy task to get through. Porter's a tough guy, so I think that's a very good matchup.
Thanks, Mikey, and good luck in your return.
Thank you.
Let's go to Steve from the Zone News, please. Thanks.
Mikey, how are you, bud?
Good, thank you.
Good to hear from you, Mikey. Good to get you back in the ring. And, kind of piggybacking off what Dan said a little bit. And, you said like budgeting and not getting the big fight made and everything along that nature. What we saw this past weekend with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, and the fact they were able to get in the ring 3 times, does that give you hope for the future, not just for yourself, but for the sport, that these big fights can finally all get made instead of always having to deal with all the promotional and the political nonsense?
When it's a huge mega fight of that caliber, of that size, it's in everyone's interest to get the fight done. And that's really what the big fights have shown us, that no matter what side, what promoter, what network you're affiliated with, if it's such a huge fight, it's gonna get done. It might take a little longer, than the fans want or than you even want, but eventually you get them done when it's that big fight. And I mean, they were able to do it 3 times, so that what a great trilogy they had. It's just a huge mark in the boxing history books now. It's a terrific trilogy that I think everybody is happy, and as a business, we're happy to see that it actually got done, because that's what the fans want to see.
Does it give you hope then, you look then towards the future, like a fight with Regis, because he just signed with a new promotional outfit, and you talked about Josh Taylor a question ago. Does that give you hope then for fights like that down the line, that you see the blueprint now that these interpromotional outfit fights can actually get made and they can prove to be wildly successful?
Well, yes, I mean that's why I've also been able to move around and work with different promotional companies and different network and affiliations, because I'm free. I'm free to do so. It just allows me to actually get and secure some of these fights that otherwise might be a little more complicated and difficult to do. I've been fighting for, like I said, for the last few years in different entities, different managers, different promoters, different networks, but it all plays out, to my advantage, because I can secure these fights that we're talking about.
Mikey, thank you, Mikey, and I will see you out in Fresno tomorrow, my friend. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Let's go to Cesar now, please.
Hey, what's up, Mikey? He's Cesar from Izquierdazo.
Hola, mucho gusto.
¿Qué hay? ¿Cómo estamos? It's been 7 fights in 6 years for you. Do you wish you could have handled your career in somewhat a different way to be more active? Are you plenty satisfied with your activity?
I'm satisfied with my managing of my own career. I've taken the right fights at the right time for me. I'll remind you, I'm 40 fights now. 41 fights, 40-1. So I don't know why all this conversation about inactivity. Sure, the last few years I haven't been as active as other fighters, but I'm also, like I said, 41 fights. It's not like I'm, only my 18th fight where kids are fighting 4 fights every year. 5 fights a year. When you're fighting at the highest caliber, and world championship fights, and you're fighting champion after champion after champion, 12-round fights take time to recover. You got to take some time off. And if you consider, like I said, last year, the whole pandemic, it affected everybody. I had plans to fight last year, more than twice. It just didn't happen. And even this year, we were still in hopes of maybe securing that fight with Manny Pacquiao, which we were very close to securing at one time. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen. So then I'm left without a fight there. And, it just, the way boxing goes sometimes. You just got to keep going. But I'm happy with my career. I'll remind everybody, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, since 2006, accomplishing world titles in 4 different divisions. I mean, I don't know if there's many other fighters that can say that.
You've been a person has been dynamic in other aspects beyond boxing, like business and things like that. Is your heart still in boxing? Besides all this business and all these things that you're doing, do you still have dreams? What would you like to accomplish in boxing? What is your dreams for the rest of your career?
Well, I've definitely tried to also venture in other businesses outside of boxing. I mean, that's the smartest thing to do. When you accomplish, a good amount of wealth in your career, in this case, my career boxing, I have to try to, continue to develop other businesses outside, just so that when the moment that my career is done, when I retire, I can have something else. But the hunger for success in boxing is still here. I'm not done. I keep telling people I'll still be world champion. In the very near future. It's not that I don't want to. It's not that I choose not to. It's just boxing sometimes. Politics and business get involved, and with the whole pandemic last year, honestly, it really did affect everybody. So. That's the reason why I was inactive for the whole last year. But I'll be back this Saturday night, and I continue to push forward for bigger fights.
Thanks so much, Mikey. Buena suerte.
Thank you. Gracias.
Anyway, my question, one more question for you, Mikey. We spent a lot of time talking about fights that didn't happen, your layoff, etc. I'd like to know what do you actually know about your opponent, Sandor Martin? I mean, he's fought at the European level. He doesn't really have a lot of names, and that people would mostly recognize. Maybe the one name was Yigit, which was the one loss that he suffered, or the last time he lost in his career. Have you watched videos of him, and what do you know about him, and what do you expect from him?
Well, I've seen some video. Like I said, I was sent over 3 names, and I quickly looked at some names. I sent them over to my brother. They also gave the okay to all 3, and then Eddie Hearn suggested that we, reach out to them, and Sandor Martin was the one that was, readily available for the time frame that we had. So I looked back at some video. I can tell that he is a slick southpaw. He's a pretty good boxer. Likes to use the southpaw stance fairly well. And that can always be a little complicated, to a right-hand fighter. That fighting a southpaw is always a little challenge. He's got experience level at the European level. I think European champion, I think twice. He stepped it up a little bit and took that loss. But I mean, I'm sure he sees this, like a world title opportunity for him. A victory over me can really launch his career to something huge in the next fight or two. So I'm not taking this fight lightly. I know he's gonna come with everything he has, and I gotta be ready for that.
Mikey, I'll let you go. I know that everybody wants to get the last question, but you said there was 3 names. Who besides Martin? Who were the other 2 guys that you got sent over as possibilities?
You might have to ask Eddie for those. I remember who else was it? I think there's. I mean, if I go through my text, I'll find it. But there's 2 other names that you mentioned.
Well, I need to know who they were. Go through those text messages.
Check right now, and I'll get back to you if you allow me.
No problem. It's always interesting when you hear guys get presented a list, 2 guys, 3 guys, 4 guys, and who they pick for obvious reasons. Obviously, availability is critical.
Give me a second. These are the names that I was given: Chris Van Harden, Thomas Delorme, Sandor Martin, Chris Algieri, Ivan Golub, I believe.
Yep, Golub.
Yeah, so those were names that were sent over to me. I told him, let me go over these names with my brother, and he says okay. And then I told him, you know what, we're okay on all of them. And then he says, okay. That's how it was.
All right, so it wasn't you just picking out Martin from the list. You're like, well, we'll fight anybody and then let Eddie go secure the guy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Mikey, thanks for doing that. That was interesting watching you go through the phone. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Dan.
Okay, let's do a few more. Jake, and then let's do Danny, and then I think we'll wrap up there if that's right. So Jake, then Danny.
Great, thanks, Sam. Mikey, so you mentioned before that you enjoy the freedom of working with every promoter, working with every network, without getting anyone else in trouble. Like, what do you enjoy the most about working with Eddie? This is your 2nd fight with him. You seem pretty content on staying with his own and with Eddie.
Well, he's very easy to work with, and they're pretty easy to just handle business. I mean, there's not a whole lot of back and forth. I mean, you can see just right now, he sent me a list of names and I said yes, and he goes out there and does his job and secures the fight. It's not that difficult, and the negotiation is also pretty cut clear. It's not, we're not fighting. We're not fighting with each other to try to secure a fight. We're both on the same page almost, and it just works well. They're open about the business. They're transparent. Matchroom and the Zone are transparent with me, which allows me to make a better decision. Whereas other entities sometimes are not as transparent, and they try to keep things and hide things from the fighters, and just I don't want to work like that. I'd rather work together than against each other.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Mikey. I appreciate your honesty.
You're welcome.
All right.
Hey, Mikey.
Hello.
Just the final question from me. If you could fight after the Sandor Martin fight, assuming all goes well, if you could fight anyone in the world, give us like a top three targets, if you like. Who would you like to get in there with?
I think I would do a fight with Regis right after this fight, because I think that would raise the hype around a future fight with me, and then next after that probably do Josh Taylor. That would be a huge fight. So after Josh Taylor, if things go well, I mean, that could possibly lead to a rematch. But if it's a different name, then at that point, then we're looking at Gervonta Tank Davis, or vice versa, Tank first and then Josh. I mean, those are huge fights at 140. Those are the only 2 huge fights that really capture my attention. And those are the world title fights there. Josh being the undisputed champion at the division, I think there's nothing bigger than that. So those names are the ones that pop to mind, first than anything.
We'd love to see you in the UK, so fingers crossed.